WTUG HD2 Northport and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station.
One man to beat, you can forget about it. Touchdown, Alabama.
Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 HD2 Northport and W265CG Tuscaloosa. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick you, and I running back coach didn't think biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial, also on the Martin Houston online radio network. We are live, local, and ready to get things going. You can find us on the various outlets, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and you can find us under at Martin Houston 35 and XO Sports. We are here to hopefully get you rolling into the weekend with lots of great things happening from a football, basketball, sports standpoint. So today we have a free-for-all Friday. So the phone lines are open, 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. Let's get you in on the conversation. Or as always, you can add your thoughts and comments to our chat box using the chat feature from the various outlets, and it will be incorporated into the conversation. So welcome in. Let's get it going. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Yesterday, X and Aiden, thank you guys for stepping in and doing a great job. Didn't get to listen to the entirety of the show, so maybe some duplication from yesterday as we get some thoughts and comments from myself and from others. But either way, got plenty to get to today as the Sweet 16 is underway. And by the time we're back on the air, we'll know the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and the Final Four will be set. Will Alabama be in that final path? And the Tennessee Volunteers found out that just because the path looks to be easier, doesn't necessarily translate to as such. If you had told the Tennessee Volunteers, hey, you'll be playing Florida Atlantic versus Purdue, Duke, Memphis, Kentucky. You know what I mean? No, they wouldn't have been playing Kentucky. Duke, Tennessee, Memphis, Purdue. If you had told them that they'd been playing those teams, they'd have been like, punch our ticket to the Elite Eight. Well, didn't happen. So Alabama better be on their P's and Q's tonight against San Diego State at 5:30 today. So other surprising, I don't know if you got to see the end of the Gonzaga UCLA game. Didn't get to watch the majority of the game, but what a finish. Strother taking a shot that was ill-advised until it went through the nets to give them the victory. So we all can relook at our brackets and talk about that. We also got NFL Alabama Pro Day yesterday. Did Bryce Young do enough for the Panthers to not be stupid and and take Stroud over him. Steve Smith Senior seems to think so. So we'll see if the Panthers follow his lead, having a big dinner on Wednesday, and he did not disappoint on yesterday. Others attempted to help their stock. One man saying, "My stock is as high as it's going to be." And Will Anderson, if you don't like me already, you ain't going to like me because you saw me work out in shorts. So I thought that was an interesting take by Will Anderson. And Coach Saban clarifying his statements or not. Did he really clarify his statements? Did he double down? We can talk about it. He did go over and see the team, which I know you guys talked about yesterday, I'm sure. But Nick Saban said, I don't watch press conferences. I don't watch other coaches' press conferences. I don't either. I didn't see the press conference when Nate Oates said what he said. They don't mean I don't know what he said. So you always have to listen to what people say, X. You have to listen to what they say. You can say a truth and it still not be relevant to what is being said. I never thought Nick Saban sat down and watched his press conference. My point was he unintentionally threw him under the bus, but he knew what had been said. And I still stick by that statement because that's what press people do. They tell their coaches what's going on. They brief him. How many people got onto the university because they said they should have had Nate Oates ready and better prepared?
A lot of people.
What do you mean better prepared? You mean to tell me that they actually talk to the coaches before they go and have a press conference? So you see what I'm saying? I get what he's saying, but I don't. I just want to make sure that I think what he did was awesome by going to see the players. I think that was awesome that he went out to see the players. I think that was a great touch. I think Nate Oates and Nick Saban have a great relationship. I don't think that this in any way impacts their relationships or any of that. You know, I don't think anybody necessarily. I don't think that there was offense taken. I'm talking about in the national light. Saban fed the narrative that everybody was running with outside of the local media. Intentional or not, like it, love it, hate it or not, his words fed the fire. It was gasoline. Let me quick leadership thing here, X. As a leader, you always walk around with two buckets in your hands. Okay, you always have a bucket of water and a bucket of gasoline. Every leader, at all times, you have a bucket of gasoline and a bucket of water, and you have to always do your best. You're not perfect, so there's going to be times when, and this may be one of those times, that you do your best to know when to put gasoline on a situation and when to put water on a situation. If a situation is causing turmoil and chaos and destruction, and there's a fire burning, and there's division on your team, you need water. You throw water on it, you put it out, right? But if your team is struggling and you're trying to get them motivated, man, you're trying to get them going, and there's a little bit of fire there, you throw gasoline on it so it explodes. In this situation, that fire was going out. Would you agree with that? The fire around Brandon Miller, X, and Aiden was going out. We watched Alabama play on Saturday, and did you hear anything about, after Ryan Phillips' article, did you hear anything about the shooting in Brandon Miller?
Complete silence.
Nothing, right? So the fire was what? Going out.
It was that.
It was going out.
Yeah, without being completely out.
And poof, it became a conversation again. So That's all my point. But either way, man, we got a lot to get to. Bryce Young, to me, showed out yesterday. It's a free-for-all Friday. So if y'all want to get in on the conversation, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. X, what you got on your mind, man? I know I did a long that's what happens when I'm out, man. I want to talk about everything at once and don't give you a chance to talk about what's on your mind on this free-for-all Friday.
Oh man, pro day yesterday. As you mentioned, Bryce Young did a lot to solidify himself as the top quarterback in this class. But is it a little selfish of me to say, as an Alabama fan, I don't want him to go number one?
Totally selfish. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, be selfish.
but I but I have a valid reasoning for it.
Okay. All right. So what's that? You want him to go help
a lot
to
move up to that number one spot. Multiple draft picks in multiple draft classes. Whereas you're looking at what Houston has. I want him to go number two. Houston he can go play for D'Amico, a former Bama guy. He can get teamed back up with John Mechie, who he has a great on the field relationship with. And then you're talking about they got how many picks in the top? 35, 30, 40 this year. They'll have their first round pick next year. Yeah, a lot more to build around. I mean, Carolina got rid of their number one wide receiver on top of the picks they gave up. So, I mean, I think Houston's situation, as crazy as it might sound, could potentially be a little bit better in a year or two than Carolina's.
Okay. Well, here's kind of the thoughts, I guess, when you think about let me see, you were talking about picks. Okay. First of all, the Texans have 2 in the first round, number 2 and number 12. They have 1 in the second round, the 33rd pick. They have 2 in the third. Then they have 1 in the fourth, 2 in the fifth, 3 in the sixth, and 2 in the seventh. So in a 7-round draft, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 picks. So and then they have
that's still a lot when you're
that's it. That's almost double. No. I'm saying that's almost double. Carolina has 13 picks in a 7-round draft. They have 13 picks this year, and then they have 10 next year. So they have 23 picks in the next 2 drafts, which is the equivalent of having a draft and a half. Huh?
3+ drafts in the next 2 years.
Yeah, and so I see what you're saying, and let me see what Carolina has, and then we'll talk about it. Let me see. Carolina has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 1 in the first overall, which so that means that Bryce or whoever the quarterback is. Then they have 6 other picks: 1 in the second, 1 in the third, 2 in the fourth, 1 in the fifth, none in the sixth, and 1 in the seventh. Good thought there. Don't know. And plus he'd be playing for D'Amico, so we can talk about that as well. But Carolina has to have their guy, right? If you trade up and you know what's happening there, you have to know what's going on. But there's other aspects of the team other than just draft. The question is, what do they have that will still be there? Okay. And what will they be able to add? Because having a young draft picks means that you could quickly build a program, but that's about 3 to 4 years down the road. one team could have given up a lot of draft picks, but be competitive immediately if they get the right pieces. Which one of those does Carolina fall into? Which one does Texas fall into? Houston fall into. We'll talk about Bryce Young and where he goes, but I think that they know which one they want already. And then which guy do you think that is? Did the Panthers move up to take Bryce Young? Or did they move up to take C.J. Stroud? Because they moved up for a quarterback. And I think it's one of those two guys. We'll talk about it on the other side. We'll also talk about Nick Saban said something yesterday, and I'm going to give Nick Saban some positive feedback, which could be potentially – it'll be interesting to see how you would feel if you were one of his existing players now when you hear these words. He is old school competitive. He's a throwback to the guys from 20 years ago. He was talking about Will Anderson. What does that say about him? What does it say about some of the other guys? Does Alabama have any other Will Andersons on this year's team? We'll talk about it. You can talk about it with us. Give us a call, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. We'll have more of that conversation on the other side.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways on this Friday morning. Now, if you do see conditions folks need to hear about, just give me a call, 205-886-8886. Business is so good at Townsend Nissan, they need experienced salespeople, and they're willing to give you a $5,000 signing bonus. See BJ or Colin for details and an interview at Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
Get 50% off tax prep at Jackson Hewitt. Limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max savings $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Let's see. There's the business plan, vendors and inventory, licenses and applications, logos and signage, hired staff. Wait, what am I forgetting? The most important piece of the puzzle in business is your marketing. If you don't tell people about your business, how do they know it exists? And these days, that marketing has to include your online presence. Before anyone walks through the door or fills their cart with your products, they've already checked you out online. So what did they find when they searched for you? Did you show up first? Does your website make a great first impression? Is it up to date? Chances are you don't know the first thing about web design or SEO. And that's okay. Town Square Tuscaloosa has the solution to all your digital needs. It's simple, fast, affordable, and it's free to check out. Just go to townsquarelocal.com. You can even see how many local customers in Tuscaloosa are looking for products and services like yours. Let us help you get people through the door so you can concentrate on making them return customers. Just go to townsquarelocal.com. At the Tuscaloosa Thread, we believe our community has the right to read the news that matters most to them without paying for the privilege at every turn. That's why we don't charge our audience a single cent for any of the articles we publish on TuscaloosaThread.com or for any of our other services. Our mobile app, email newsletter, even digital obituaries are all available completely free of charge. Join the tens of thousands of readers who have made the Thread their first choice for news in West Alabama. It's free.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partially sunny and warm today, becoming breezy this afternoon, the high 82. Windy tonight, thunderstorms arrive after midnight. Those storms could be severe, the low 63. Tomorrow, rain ending early, the sky becoming mostly sunny, the high 83. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith and Softmark Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit them online at softmarkdesign.com.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
All right. Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We were talking about the draft pick, and the thing. I don't know Texas situation, but Aiden throwing out some good intel regarding Carolina, which is monumental in terms of a quarterback success. Carolina, as of today, is returning all 5 starting offensive linemen. That's huge because Bryce Young's success will come from his ability to get the ball to the right people, and that starts with those big hog mollies up front. So, X, would you take a stout returning offensive line? Is Bozeman one of those offensive linemen? Is he still at the Panthers?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he. As a matter of fact, do you know if they got rid of the center? He went there and there was a guy starting in front of Bozeman who got hurt. And then Bozeman started playing, and the guy can't get back into the lineup. So the question is, that guy is another, if he didn't leave, I don't know if he left the team or not, if he's back healthy. But if he's there, you got even a former starter as a backup. So, X, would you take a starting offensive line, 5, all intact, that remember how this team played down the stretch? What did they have that would help Bryce Young if Frank Reich doesn't get rid of it? A running game, right?
Remember? Yeah, but they also you don't have Christian McCaffrey anymore.
They didn't have Christian down the stretch last year.
Dante Foreman, who was the starter down the stretch, is no longer there as well.
Yeah, but was Foreman? Was it Foreman or was it the O-line and the play calling that happened afterwards? That's why I said it, Frank Reich. I don't think Foreman was this elite running back. They got rid of Christian McCaffrey left, traded, etc. They had a style change in their coaching, and they became competitive immediately. The question is, will Frank Reich keep that? And Frank Reich, am I mistaken? But the Colts had a decent running game as well, right? Over the last few years, they didn't have a quarterback. Yeah. They just didn't have a quarterback that could stay healthy. But they had a decent.
And also, you're talking about DJ Moore, who I feel like has been really underrated throughout his career, who was your top guy. He's gone at wide receiver.
All right, watch this. Though. Panthers. They may take a quarterback and a running back. I mean, if you got an offensive line or a quarterback and a wide receiver with those first 2 picks, but we'll see. It would be cool to see him end up with the Texans. So
outside of DJ Moore, nobody had more than 490 yards receiving last year. That's back. So past DJ Moore, you had Terrence Marshall Jr., Shi Smith, Laviska Shenault, and your tight ends were Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble.
So the question then becomes, X, is that the question then becomes this, though. Is that due to the quarterback play? And then, of course, down the stretch, the style of play would have definitely hurt, right? So stats don't tell the whole story. Sometimes stats can be deceiving, or I can make them tell the story I wanted to tell. I could say that the wide receivers didn't have a whole lot of yards, therefore the wide receivers aren't very good, and justify, me being a bad quarterback or being a bad offense coordinator. Or I could look at that offense and go, the quarterback wasn't very good, therefore the wide receivers weren't very good. Because, McCaffrey got out there, of course, to have a chance to play in the Super Bowl, but they became a better running team without McCaffrey. Well, McCaffrey is obviously a more talented running back than the guy they had that ended the season, right? I mean, McCaffrey is elite. So Curtis Lewis said Frank Reich had never had a QB under 6'3". Well, if you go back, most NFL teams 3, 4, 5 years ago didn't have a quarterback that was under 6'2", right? I mean, guys, the league has changed. The quarterback position has changed. When I was coming along, it was if you weren't 6'3", you weren't even considered a quarterback. If you weren't 6'3", and I'm not being ugly with this, in White, there was a time you couldn't be a quarterback at all, no matter what you could do. So you see what I'm saying? So I understand what hasn't been, but is this the time that Frank Reich makes that change? I don't know. But whatever it is, I think he knows, he feels comfortable with one of the two guys, right? And he did not want to take a chance of being behind the Texans, and not getting his guy. So that's why I said I think he knows which one he wants, because the reality of it is he was willing to get the other team to trade down, and then with that trade down, he gets the guy he absolutely wants. What were you about to say, X? I thought you were about to say something. I cut you off.
Oh no, I mean, you make valid points of it could have been the quarterback play, it could have been the coaching, it could have been a lot of things. But when I'm looking, I'm going, Houston has a young running back that's proven that was one of the best rookie running backs in the league last year. You can still improve the offensive line. You've got one of the best left tackles in the game in Larry Tunsil that you just re-signed. God willing, John Mechie's health is back and he's in a good position. And then you still have that number 12 pick where you can get one of the top end. You can probably get a Jackson Smith and Jigba. You can get a Quentin Johnson there. Or, if you want to improve the O-line, improve the defense there, you're still sitting with the 33rd pick. And there's going to be a couple wide receivers left or a couple offensive linemen left there that help then.
Yeah. I'm just saying, would you rather have an intact offensive line and then go out and recruit weapons, or would you rather have weapons and then try to build a line? That's the question. And I think that's a philosophy standpoint.
I think it might be easier to build. I mean, it might sound crazy. I think it might be easier to build a line because you're not having to rebuild the entire line. You got your left tackle. You drafted your left guard in the first round last year. Really, the biggest hole in their offensive line would be right tackle. And I think there's a couple guys that are sitting at 12 that you can get there. A Paris Johnson Jr., a Peter Skoranek. A lot of people are really high on Tyler Steen. Bump him over to right tackle.
Or a guard. I think he'll be a guard in the league.
Or you can move him to guard. Yeah.
I think Tyler Steen's going to be a guard. I think he's going to probably be pretty good at it too, because he's shown athletic ability, being out there in space. He gives you some options in that interior, a bigger body, good feet, good hands, all of that. So I think but I think it's still overall, I think it's easier to find talented wide receivers and running backs than it is to find offensive linemen who can play at the next level for a long time. And thus why you see the more and more offensive linemen are moving up the board. Now, years ago, I would have said the opposite, X, because they used to draft those guys later. But now, because of the way football is played, it's almost let me and now I'll get your thoughts on this too. Let me tell you, wide receivers are on their way to becoming what running backs were. You're hearing it here first. Wide receivers are on their way to becoming what running backs are. You know what I mean by that? remember when running backs used to be a premium? And I mean, and like you wouldn't dare pass on a Bijan Robinson as a top 10 pick, or Jahmyr Gibbs on a top 10 pick 15 years ago. Emmitt Smith and those guys would fall in today's draft. Why? Because it's beginning to be shown that you can find running backs with third, fourth, fifth round picks, 6th round pick. You see what I'm saying? So guys who are the guys you just named X as running backs, we don't even know where they play college ball at. We don't even know anything about them. And with the 7-on-7 world, wide receivers are going to become that way. Wide receivers are going to become that commodity because there's so many of them. It hadn't happened yet, but I think that's coming. You look at the Alabama wide receivers who didn't play at Alabama that are still in the league. They weren't even on the field. And Aiden, what are your thoughts on that, X? I'll let you close out, and then you take us to break.
I mean, you got a team going out here going to AFC championships every year in the Cincinnati Bengals with Samaje Perine of all running backs being a piece of their offense. And then on the same side of that coin, you're right. You got Cam Sims is getting another contract in the NFL. When did Cam Sims catch a ball in Tuscaloosa? No, I think you're hitting the nail on the head here, Martin. I think it's substantially more difficult to build an offensive line in today's NFL than it is to find weapons. I would absolutely love to see Bryce go to Carolina over Houston.
Yeah. And so, X, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't know why Samaje Perine is getting a lot of slander. If I'm not mistaken, even though he hasn't had a great NFL career, he was the reason Joe Mixon wasn't the starter at Oklahoma.
I'm not saying Samaje.
I mean, this guy was phenomenal at Oklahoma. He's an old school back, but he's an old school back, and so he doesn't necessarily fit today's game.
Right.
I mean, he's 5'11", 245 pounds, and outside of really Tennessee, you don't see those guys.
X, my question isn't about running backs, guys. My question is the wide receiver. The running back, that ship is sailed. Or a top running back, it's going to be one or two of them in the elite category because you can find Samaje Perine today I don't even know where he was drafted at. He may have been drafted late, so he may actually see that he proves my point. He's a 4th round guy, okay, but he's leading his team to Super Bowls, okay, from the running back position with the quarterback. You take what I'm saying is the running back position has already sailed down that road. The wide receiver position is becoming that because of 7-on-7. You have all of these guys who are starting when they're in the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, learning how to run routes and all of these things, and quarterbacks are getting more elite. That the wide receiver position versus finding offensive linemen, and the reason offensive linemen are harder now is they don't get to do both things. So finding an offensive lineman in the draft that can pass protect but also help you run the ball. Ask Patrick Mahomes what happened when their running game picked up in Kansas City. Everybody forgets that when number 10 started running the ball more effective, I don't even know how to say the guy's name. I don't even know where he came from. I'm not even sure he played college football. But what happened? The Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champion, did what? They lost their all-world wide receiver, and Patrick Mahomes proceeded to have a all-world season. They lost Tyreek Hill as a wide receiver. X, he's gone. They have a running back that we don't even know his name. Okay? We don't even know where he played college ball. And then Mahomes goes out and has a record-setting season. So
yeah.
I mean that's my point. Is it's harder to find offensive linemen that can protect the quarterback and give you a little bit of a run game or enough of a run game. Carolina has that. So can they find one or two guys in the draft or in free agency that takes that offensive skill set to the next level? Is there going to be a what was that dude that left the Titans and went to the Eagles? That took a quarterback, huh?
A.J. Brown.
Yeah. So they can find those guys, but it's going to be harder to find. In my opinion, it'd be harder to find the linemen. So anyway, we can come back on the other side. Any closing thoughts from you, X, on that? Then you take us to break, and on the other side, I want to talk about what Saban said about Will Anderson, and I promise I'm going to mention basketball today, guys. I'm getting my football fix in for a second, and we got a couple callers on hold. X, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. The wide receiver position is becoming more flexible, and I think Kansas City is a great example of that. We'll kind of see how things go from there. And as you said, on the other side of the break, we will be breaking down Nick Saban's words on Will Anderson being an old school guy, and then we will, of course, finish up the show talking about some Alabama basketball tonight against San Diego State.
This is a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update.
I'm Kim Rankin with your Tide Sports Update. Alabama football head coach Nick Saban clarified his wrong place, wrong time comments that he made on Monday. The Alabama men's basketball team arrived in Louisville, Kentucky for its Sweet 16 matchup against San Diego State. Nick Saban spoke highly of Will Anderson during Alabama's Pro Day.
This has been a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update.
Run it again!
For more info on these stories and more, download the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways on this Friday morning. Now, if you do see conditions folks need to hear about, just give me a call. 205-886-8886. Business is so good at Townsend Nissan, they need experienced salespeople, and they're willing to give you a $5,000 signing bonus. See BJ or Colin for details and an interview at Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
Ask big. Have you seen our artisan-created diamonds? If you've been in a room with one, you can't miss it.
Tom Osmond from Fincher & Osmond.
It's a diamond like I've never seen.
And he's seen a lot of diamonds.
Ask big.
At Fincher & Osmond, you can put artisan-created diamonds side by side with mined diamonds. When you see it.
More importantly, when she sees it.
FincherandOsmond.com.
McFarland Boulevard between Edgar's and Local Roots.
Still overpaying for a razor? In this economy? Gross. At Dollar Shave Club, you can get a top shelf shave at a regular shelf price. We've been hawking shaving products for years online, and we're excited to bring you the same great quality and low prices at a store near you. From high-quality stainless steel blades to super smooth shave creams, Dollar Shave Club's in the business of making your shave easier. Find Dollar Shave Club in the men's razor aisle. Getting your Dollar Shave Club razor wherever you want. Isn't that great?
Did you know Nissan EVs have traveled 8 billion miles? Just a quick trip to Pluto and back. And what did we learn along the way? Well, that an EV can take on the world, like the Nissan Leaf. It can move racing forward and take your breath away, like the all-new Nissan Ariya. We learned to make EVs that electrify. 8 billion miles driven by Leaf owners globally since 2010. 2023 Ariya has limited availability. All-wheel drive expected availability early 2023, subject to change.
3 Doors Down, live. Away from the Sun Anniversary Tour. Saturday, August 5th, Tuscaloosa Amphitheater. Special guest, Candlebox, their farewell year of touring. Tickets on sale Friday at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com. 3 Doors Down with Candlebox. Away from the Sun Anniversary Tour, part of the Coca-Cola Concert Series. It's the Tuscaloosa Community Calendar, powered by Pepsi. Tuscaloosa's one place is hopping into downtown Northport to brighten up the season with the Bunny Trail. With is a display of nearly 100 eggs in historic downtown Northport. Take time to stroll along the bunny trail and take tons of selfies. It's going on now until April 22nd. All events are free community events. For more details, log on to northportbunnytrail.com.
Hi. Who's this?
Buzz. He appears whenever you eat Honey Nut Cheerios.
Like a genie?
Sure.
Ooh, does he grant wishes? I wish I lived in a giant boot. No, I wish I could swim with a humpback whale. No.
I can grant you a delicious bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios, which can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart-healthy diet.
Ooh, with heart shapes, too.
Happy heart-shaped Cheerios are back for a limited time. Pick up a box of Honey Nut Cheerios at your local store for an easy, delicious, and heart-healthy start to your day.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports Xavier Houston.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on the Alabama One Hotline. Go check out alabama.org to find out about all our great promotions. We do have a Will Anderson conversation, but I don't want to cheat that conversations. So we'll get to our callers, and then if we get back to it, we'll do it. If not, we'll hit it on Monday. But give you a chance to be noodling on it. Saban calling him old school competitor in terms of his character, his toughness, his competitiveness. Does Alabama have enough of those type players to get back to a championship level, or are they all over in Athens right now? So that's the question. It seems like that was an anomaly versus the norm for the current Alabama roster. That's Martin reading into it, but I would like to know your thoughts. But let's get to our callers. Guys, we're going to work you in and out pretty quick, but let's get to Joey. Joey, thank you so much for your patience. You're in with Martin and Xavier on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning, Martin. And I'm going to switch the topic a little bit.
You're fine. You're fine.
The NCAA tournament, I saw some of the games, early games last night, the Kansas State, Michigan State. And they played basketball. And then I saw the rugby game on the other channel.
Tennessee.
Back and forth of Connecticut, Arkansas.
Right.
Those officials cannot be in the same league. One game looked like a rugby game. I mean, they were wrapping arms around people's necks and throwing them to the floor in the Connecticut game. And then the other game, they were calling, small, I don't mean tic-tac, touch fouls, but it was called when you made contact or you leaned in or kind of, on a screen.
But Joey, didn't UConn do that to us when they beat us?
Yes, but it's the officiating that was a total difference.
All right.
One was basketball, one was rugby.
And that's, unfortunately, that's the sad part about the March Madness is matchup, is how a game is called, and whether you're able to play your style versus the other team playing their style. I didn't get to see that game, but when I saw the score, I was like, wow. It sounds like, from what you're telling me, UConn got to play their game.
Oh, they put their arms around each other, and they moved 15 feet with their arm around the guy's throat and then threw him out of bounds.
Yeah.
Right in front of an official.
Well, UConn was a name they wanted to get in there. It's already too many new bloods that's on their way to the Elite Eight and Final Four. So they had to get one of those in there, Joey.
It was. You can see some of it. It was horrible.
Yeah. Hey, any closing thoughts on Alabama tonight against San Diego State?
If we play our game, that's my big key. Having the young men have their heads into their game. And one game, I'm a believer, like football too. One game at a time. Yep. I say that to you all the time.
Absolutely.
Let's get the next game out of the way.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate the content.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for holding and being patient. Chuck Hunt, you're in with Martin and Xavier. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning to you all. I was just calling what he was just talking about the NCAA tournament. I stayed up and watched that game. Watched Florida Atlantic beat Tennessee it shows you on any given day. I look at Dusty May. He used to be an assistant over my way at Louisiana Tech under Mike White before White went to Florida. He's on White staff at Florida, and he's really built that Florida Atlantic program, and it has people on that team. People be talking about 4 and 5 stars, McDonald's high school All-Americans, but it shows you get on the grid on the hardwood, anything can happen in the March Madness, because the thing about it, everybody's hungry, and the thing about it, there are those names that you never heard of, like Janelle Davis with Florida Atlantic. That young man stepped up last night, and I look at Kansas State. I didn't even pay Kansas State attention this season. Jerome Taylor is a great team there, and things just happening. It wasn't on Kansas State; it was on University of Kansas that the attention was. And now KU is going home, but it just shows you anything can happen. And like I said, Alabama is playing San Diego State tonight. They want to just play their game, because these things can happen when that ball is being tipped off.
Yeah, and I would say that I don't know the roster at FAU, but I'd be willing to bet that they got a lot of older guys who've played a lot of basketball.
I agree.
And people don't recognize how important that is. But when you get guys who stay 4 years, 5 years, and in this case, they may have some 6-year guys because of COVID. And these guys have played a lot of basketball. Now, Tennessee has an older team, but they've had guys in front of them, playing. So they haven't been playing. But the guys at Florida Atlantic have probably, as a whole, and then they get a transfer from here or there that was, back up at one of the other schools. All of a sudden, they come there and they play. And so it definitely matters. Thanks for that input, Chuck. All
right, you have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Let's get Pat on this side, and then we'll close out on the other side with some hoop conversation. Pat, you're in with Martin and Xavier. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning. Hey, one more wide receiver to talk about, man. That Jalen out of Texas at Longview. That hey, this guy's gonna be special according to Drew Dillman. Drew and I talk about him pretty regular. And
this is a high school kid.
Huh?
You talking about the high school kid?
He's one of the guys we signed this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah.
So what have we seen that makes us think he's going to be special?
The fact that he's 6'2", can high point the ball and flies, got speed to kill.
How many wide receivers have we had with that stat that's been good?
Quite a few.
Julio.
Man,
we have Julio, and how tall was what's his name? Went to Detroit.
Jamo 6'1".
6'1".
6'6".
So in Alabama's history, Pat, and I'm not being ugly with this. I hope the guy is elite. But Alabama's history, unless now here's the thing. Our style of play undoubtedly favors the smaller, quicker route runner versus the big elite speed guy. Julio Jones could play in any offense. Okay. But statistically, Julio wasn't even a great player. In comparison to today, right? And if he played today, he would rewrite the record books, and I get that. But of all the other wide receivers we've had, Pat, that we always think, man, they've all ended up somewhere else. The tallest receiver we've had that's been elite, maybe Amari Cooper, right? Would you agree with that, X?
6'1".
Huh?
Yeah, he's 6'1".
But
if you look at all of the Alabama's wide receivers that have been studs, you got like Jamo, Amari, and I think Jerry Jeudy's 6'1". The rest of them, Calvin Ridley, Ruggs, Waddle, Devontae, have all been 5'11", 6 foot, maybe even 5'10".
Yeah. And the only reason I say that, Pat, is Amari Amari could have been elite, don't get me wrong, and he showed that at the NFL level. But he was statistically elite here because of our offensive coordinator looking at his quarterback and saying he can throw these, bubble screens. Amari had probably a third or more of his offense catching the ball behind the line of scrimmage. through bubble screen. So I'm not saying the guy won't be elite. I'm hoping that we finally get one of those guys where size and speed changes. And I think it's possible because of the style that we're going to play. I think play action pass, Pat, is going to come back into this offense. And that is the type of offense that favors a big receiver who can go downfield. Because go ahead.
To be honest, Jalen Hale, I mean, I think he's really talented and he has an opportunity to be really good, but I wouldn't expect a lot out of him this year. He's an outside wide receiver, and with you don't bring a JUCO guy in that you don't expect to play. You still got Ja'Cory Brooks. So, I mean, you got two guys in front of him along with Burton if he plays on the outside again this year. So there's three guys right there that are most likely going to be in front of him this year. I think when you start to look towards 2024 is when he'll have an opportunity due to Brooks potentially leaving for the draft, Benson potentially leaving for the draft, and Burton graduating.
I think Burton becomes an inside receiver in the starting rotation.
I do too.
If he's still on the field. And Curtis Lewis pointed out that Malik Benson looked good yesterday catching balls from Bryce. So I didn't get to see him.
He looked really good yesterday.
That's against air, but you can see athletic ability. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it, man.
I got y'all.
Hey, Pat, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just know that it's interesting that Alabama's been one of the few teams who've not been able to break that big receiver code. We just mentioned a guy a few minutes ago, Aiden mentioned Cam Sims, who is what year is he in, Aiden?
Oh, he's been in the league since 2018, and he's 6'5".
Right. And never got on the field here, really. And now he's got another contract, in the league and couldn't get on the field here. Doesn't mean he's not talented. And I hope that this kid, Jalen Hale, that you refer, that we figure out, and I think Tommy Reese will figure out how to use it. And I think it'll be off of the play action pass. Thanks, Pat. All right. Hey, let's go ahead and roll right through, get out of here a few minutes early, give you a little bit of your morning back this morning. Alabama plays San Diego State tonight. Let me get your thoughts, and I'll tell you what I think my thoughts are. I'll get it from both of you. X, you up first, and then you go, Aiden.
I think Alabama just has to continue to go out and play the brand of basketball that they've been playing. San Diego State can give Alabama a few problems. They are a physical team, but once again, I think you have the situation with Maryland. Maryland was a very physical team, but as the game wore on, Alabama's talent and depth was too much, and I think that's going to be a similar situation that you have tonight.
Kind of along the same lines X said, as long as we keep playing the way we played against Maryland, the way we played against Corpus Christi, quite frankly, the way we played through the SEC tournament, then we'll come out of this game just fine. However, this is a scrappy physical basketball team, and that is the style of team that has given this team fits consistently throughout the season. If there's going to be a team that pulls an upset on us, it's going to be San Diego State. It's going to be Creighton. I look at the teams that could be making the Final Four, and I don't see a whole lot to worry about, but I am mildly worried about San Diego State. I think it'll at least be a close game. This is going to be a very competitive and entertaining basketball game for everyone outside of West Alabama.
Yeah, and I would tell you guys, I agree. If Alabama plays their best and San Diego plays their best, Alabama wins the game. But I will throw out just a couple things to think about. Alabama, deep bench, 10 deep. San Diego State, guys, 9 deep rotation consistently. We're not going to wear this team down like we've done other teams. It's going to be if our shots going, then we can pull away from them. If the 3 balls fall in, Alabama pulls away. But if our 3 ball isn't falling, this is going to be a dogfight down to the end because they want to muck up the game, make it nasty, make it physical. They're not a big, overpowering team, but they're a physical defensive team. If their shots are falling and our shots are falling, we still have a chance because I think we have similar styles defensively. I'm telling you, I think that when we look at it, we'll look at the bench and see what did our bench contribute versus their bench contribute, and whichever one wins that battle wins this game. I'm saying it's going to be the Tide. X, you got a score or a by win margin?
I think Alabama pulls this out by about 10 plus. I think we get in the mid 70s.
And then after that, is Alabama going to be facing Creighton, or who you think they're going to be facing in the Elite Eight?
I think it'll be Creighton in the Elite Eight.
And then in that game, really quick, if Creighton's threes is falling, our threes better be falling because Creighton hit 11 in the last one. So I predict Alabama takes care of business, win over San Diego State and Creighton this weekend, and we'll be talking about Alabama on their way to the Final Four. Take care of business tonight, guys. Hey, I'm Martin Houston. That's Xavier Houston. That is Aiden Dollins. We thank you for being a part of the show. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, and not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Roll Tide out there, everybody. And, hey, stop by Harvest Church on Sunday at 10 a.m. We'd love to have you out in Coker, hctuscaloosa.com.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Things pretty quiet on the roadways on this Friday morning. Now, if you do see conditions folks need to hear about, just give me